Our vision is the worldwide adoption of ecologically, socially, and economically sound systems based on the principles of organic agriculture. Health, ecology, fairness, and care. This means growing food in a way that sustains the health of people and the planet, that nourishes living ecological systems and cycles, that builds relationships, ensuring fairness both among people and in their relations to other living beings, and also protects and cares for the health and well-being of current and future generations as well as the environment.
Soil, a solution to climate change? Day after day, we are pumping more and more carbon dioxide into the air and heating up our planet. Industrial agriculture is making things worse. Luckily, we have a solution to help cool things down, and it's right under our feet. It's the soil. Soil is our secret weapon in the battle against climate change. It absorbs huge amounts of carbon from all around us. In fact, it already stores 3 times as much as the atmosphere and 5 times as much as forests. Managed in harmony with nature, it has the potential to store much more. By using methods which are essential elements of organic farming, such as cover cropping, composting and crop rotations, farmers can enhance soil carbon sequestration. Soils managed in such a way can retain significantly more carbon than industrial monocropping systems. There are a lot of ways to increase soil organic carbon levels. Longer grazing periods and pasture management, hedges at field boundaries, agroforestry, and restoring land in poor conditions. Besides cutting down on greenhouse gas emissions, using management practices that increase the quantity of carbon stored in the soils, we can slow down or even stop global warming. What's more, by not using harmful synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, organic agriculture keeps you and our planet healthy. Healthy soils equals healthy food, healthy people, and a healthy planet.
You're waiting for the rain now also.
Yeah, we are waiting for the rain. That's why you see now it is withering.
Yes, yes.
You can't see good green.
We're experiencing a lot of drought in Kenya. Last year the rains failed. We didn't get the long rains in August. The September short rains failed completely. So because of that, we don't have a lot of food in Kenya. But on our farm, I need to be honest to say that we have been affected to an extent. But what we have, we still have some produce to sell. And how this has been possible is because we have good soils.
When I started doing organic farming, my type of soil has changed. I can keep more water than my neighbors. The soil stores more water, so I have more season, or rather longer season than my neighbors.
Yeah, sweet potatoes actually do well, with little water. And I decided to just plant this, and you'll be amazed that for this little space, if we're to harvest all of this, we'll get even sometimes more than 50 kilos, just in a very small area. Yeah, they're very drought resistant, and I hope with time, like our government or policy makers will be able to take us back to drought resistant crops, because the climate changes, it's getting to us.
Dear friends, today I would like to share with you my understanding on the principle of health of organic agriculture. When people talk about the health, they are usually regarding to the health of human beings. Yes, of course, the health of human beings is our aim. It's so important. But the health of human beings comes from the healthy soil, healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy environment, healthy ecosystem, healthy nature, and a healthy earth. Even only regard to the health of human beings, there are two parts: consumers and farmers. They cannot be separated. They are in one family. This is a win-win system, because when the consumers, they pay more for the organic products, for the organic food, yes, they are benefiting themselves for their health. But of course, they are also benefiting the nature, the animals, the plants, the soils. And exactly, they are benefiting the farmers for their health. You see, the farmers, when they apply chemicals in their fields, the chemicals, the contamination they get is hundreds and thousands times more than what the consumers they take from the residues of their food. So the farmers, they are producing products for the consumers, but actually they are benefiting themselves. There is something saying one family, two systems. That means some of the farmers, they only apply chemicals in the fields that are supplying products, food to the consumers, and they keep their own part, small parts of field without chemicals. They think they are protecting themselves. But actually, when they are applying chemicals in the large portion of their fields, they are still contaminated. So there is no single winning part. This is a win-win system. We have to work together to make a sustainable, healthy earth, to protect it, finally to protect the health of the human beings. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you a story about birds. In fact, let's look at one bird, the barn swallow. You may know it. It's the one that builds its nest under the roofs of village houses, farmhouses, and barns. Bird populations, such as swallows, give us a good indication of how well our environment is doing. And how is it doing? Well, the fact is, it's not doing so great. Bird life is in decline. Industrial agriculture is changing our landscape and killing insect life, an essential food source for birds. And this helps explain the 30% reduction in the swallow population over the last decade. As we speak, Spain is losing about 500,000 swallows each year. But we can change this by choosing to buy more organically grown food and supporting farmers who farm in a biodiversity-friendly and sustainable way. Agroecological practices such as organic offer a wide range of pest control solutions. It's not just pulling the pesticide trigger. This is why organic farms are teeming with wildlife and offer birds both nourishment and a place to nest. In return, birds can help farmers control pests naturally. Love nature? Choose local, seasonal, and organic.
Con la cooperativa agricola Coraggio abbiamo da subito fatto la scelta di coltivare con metodo biologico e si utilizza questo metodo innanzitutto per un atteggiamento di prudenza nei confronti di un sistema di cose molto complesso dove quindi l'uomo deve entrare in punta di piedi. Utilizzare un sistema biologico significa valorizzare al meglio le risorse che si trovano già in campo, innanzitutto. Non apportare fonti di energia dall'esterno, non intervenire in modo aggressivo per il controllo degli parassiti piuttosto che delle erbe spontanee, ma cercare di far convivere tutti i sistemi, diciamo tutti gli elementi di un sistema complesso come quello agricolo insieme, cercando di far sì che si valorizzino a vicenda. Per questo non utilizziamo concimi di sintesi, non utilizziamo veleni che altrimenti poi finirebbe che mangeremmo come pesticidi e quant'altro e cerchiamo di semmai trattare bene il suolo facendo sì che il suolo da solo trovi un equilibrio e riesca a essere nutriente, accogliente per le piante che poi l'uomo consuma. Per questo lavoriamo con i metodi come le rotazioni agricole delle colture, spostando leguminose, ortaggi e cereali in modo tale da garantire anche al terreno il giusto riposo e cerchiamo quindi fondamentalmente di agire il meno possibile con metodi il meno possibile invadenti per avere una produzione peraltro di maggiore qualità, rispettando i ritmi delle stagioni e le produzioni stagionali e quindi anche facendo lo sforzo di interagire e conoscere meglio il clima.
My topic today is biodiversity and ecosystem services, one of the 4 key principles of organic agriculture, actually. The relevance and extreme importance of biodiversity, both below and above ground, does hardly to have to be re-emphasized, I think, in this group of people. But not only for its intrinsic value as source of resilience and potential for adaptation to changes, to changes such as climate change, but also as the backbone for ecosystem services which depend on the very availability of this biodiversity. Healthy soils are alive with all forms of life on Earth, as we know. From bacteria, fungi, viruses, nematodes, and up to small mammals, all key to assure that the soil ecosystem can handle the increasing physical and also biological stresses, which we all know are coming up, and also provide ecosystem services such as nutrient cycling, water holding, carbon sequestration, this among others. The biodiversity above ground provides resilience by increasing the capacity for pest, disease, resistance and tolerance, both in its varietal as well as genetic form, and the supply of biological control, which I think is very important. So nature does not agree with reductionism. It needs the complexity made available by plant and animal diversity. Given the biodiversity is available, that means specially promoted through regenerative agronomic practices, it will provide and support a healthy environment. And I think that's why we keep saying healthy people, healthy food, healthy environment, healthy animals. So it's all connected as we know. And I think above all nutrient-rich food and healthy people. If we grow our food in healthy soils, we'll have more nutritious food, which is a very big element, I think, of what we try to do in organic agriculture. All this is cost-free and renewable, as much needed, and a bonus, actually, is to sequester extra carbon. And we need to reduce our 450 ppm out there right now down to 380 and maybe even to 350. So again, organic agriculture is the way to go because it helps. Not only because we're going to have more biodiversity, but because we can have, with all this diversity, also underground, above ground, we can sequester a whole lot more carbon. And again, deal with something which impedes or will impede agriculture a whole lot more in the future. So the implementation of organic agriculture in the framework of agroecology addresses all three sustainable development dimensions, and it will be supported by the introduction of true costing that accounts for both the positive and as well as the negative externalities. So when we do true cost of accounting, we need to be sure that we also add in the positive, not only just talk about the negative ones. And I think organic agriculture is bound to bring very great results in that direction. So there exists ample evidence that with the organic agriculture 3.0 practices, the world can produce food in sufficient quantity and above all quality, because the quantity is actually less the problem, it's the quality and where, to nourish a global population at its peak in 2050 of some maybe 9 billion, 9.5 billion, 9.5 billion people, or maybe less. I think the trends now show that we even will be less people. So I think we need to stop worrying about all this talk about we need more fertilizer, more pesticide to grow more food. Let's do it the other way around. Let's see where we need more food, what quality of food we need, and what diversity. And I think that's where, again, this whole idea of diversity comes in. Diversity of not only of the system, but what is inside that system, from farmers to crops, which is all very, very important to assure a good future. So in order to address the SDGs broadly and efficiently, and create synergies across goals, while avoiding the negative feedbacks as much as possible, we need organic agriculture 3.0, and it has much to offer, and it's the way forward.
ค่อยซื้อป้าบัวจันทร์เฮืองวิไลค่อยอาศัยอยู่บ้านยอนเมืองแปกแขวงเสียงขวางประเทศลาวค่อยได้อยู่กับครอบครัวแล้วมีลูกนำกัน5 คนปัจจุบันเขาใหญ่หมดแล้วค่อยกับครอบครัวได้พร้อมกันเฮ็ดสวนทั่วๆไปมีเนื้อที่ประมาณ 1,300 ตารางเมตรปัจจุบันแม่นค่อยเฮ็ดระบบอินทรีย์ค่อยเริ่มเฮ็ดสวนอินทรีย์แต่ปี 2009 เมื่อค่อยได้ยินว่ามีโครงการฝึกอบรมให้แก่ชาวสวนชาวนาตลาดค่อยแม่นขายเพียงแต่กลุ่มชาวสวนที่นำใช้ระบบกวดกายั่งยืนที่มีส่วนร่วม PCS แม่นระบบการยั่งยืนแบบมีส่วนร่วมพวกเฮายั่งยืนต่อลูกค้าว่าพืชผักอาหารที่พวกเฮาขายได้ปลูกแบบกสิกรรมอินทรีย์แท้สำหรับชาวสวนพวกเฮาแม่นช่องทางที่ดีหลายเพื่อรู้ว่าลูกค้าพวกเฮาและลูกค้าทั่วๆไปได้ยินว่าแม่นอินทรีย์แล้วข้าเจ้าก็ยอมจ่ายราคาแพงกว่าผักทั่วไปข้าเจ้ารู้ว่าผักพวกเฮามีผลดีต่อสุขภาพบ่มีผลกระทบสาเหตุหนึ่งที่พวกเฮาสามารถยั่งยืนได้ย้อนสมาชิกคณะกรรมการ PCS ลงกวดสวนพวกเฮาปีละ1 ครั้งเมื่อข้าเจ้ามีสมาชิก PCS แล้วข้าเจ้าปฏิบัติตามหลักการกสิกรรมอินทรีย์แท้แลกเปลี่ยนบทเรียนแลกเปลี่ยนประสบการณ์กับผู้อื่นวิธีนี้แม่นช่วยให้หลายเมื่อมีคำถามเกี่ยวกับวิธีจัดการศัตรูพืชได้เรียนรู้จากชาวสวนผู้อื่นเกี่ยวกับวิธีจำกัดศัตรูพืชแบบอินทรีย์โดยนำไส้มะเพชรผักกระเทียมหัวข่าและอื่นๆซึ่งสำเร็จพื้นที่สำหรับพื้นที่การเยี่ยมยามสวนของพวกเฮาได้ประมาณพวกเฮาได้กวดกาประมาณ1 ครั้งต่อปีสำหรับชาวสวนแต่ละคนซึ่งเฮ็ดให้พวกเฮาเพียงพอต่อการกวดกาเห็นว่าพวกเฮาปฏิบัติได้ตามมาตรฐานแต่เฮ็ดให้พวกเฮาปรับปรุงการปฏิบัติ
ระบบการนำใช้ที่ว่าไปกวดกันนี่ก็คิดว่าดีแหละเนาะ เพราะว่ามีการแลกเปลี่ยนบทเรียนนำกันอีกนะมีส่วนร่วมนำกันหลายขึ้นเติมนะเนาะ
สามารถรักษาไว้ได้ดนอีกอย่างหนึ่งปัจจุบันนอกจากการขายอยู่ท้องตลาดแล้วค่อยยังได้บริการส่งนำถึงที่พวกเฮาได้มีรถคันหนึ่งเพื่อส่งถึงที่สำหรับผู้สั่งได้ราคาประมาณ 50,000 ขึ้นไประยะทางประมาณ5 กิโลเมตรหลายคนจะเข้าร่วมในการซื้อผักของค่อยเมื่อได้มีโอกาสค่อยก็ได้มีการบริการให้พวกเขาเจ้ามีบางคนก็มาซื้อกับส่วนของค่อยโดยกงพวกเขาสังเกตเห็นว่าค่อยปลูกอย่างแด่ในสวนและได้ซีบอกว่าเขาต้องการพักอย่างแด่ถ้าว่าเทียบใส่รายรับการเฮ็ดฮูกมื้อก่อนเพียงว่าปีหนึ่งได้ 5-6 ล้านต่อปีย้อนเฮาลบต้นทุนออกปัจจุบันค่อยมาเฮ็ดสวนอินทรีย์แล้วถึงจะน้อยค่อยก็พอใจว่าย้อนค่อยได้มีรายรับทุกๆมื้อเปลี่ยนแปลงหลายเมื่อก่อนเฮาก็กินพออยู่ได้ซื่อๆแต่ปัจจุบันนี้ถือว่าทุกอย่างเฮาพร้อมแล้วจะแม่นไก่จะแม่นปลาจะแม่นพืชผักเฮาอยากชนิดใดเฮาก็สามารถเลือกอยู่พื้นที่ของเฮามาเฮ็ดกินเองอยู่ในเรือนครัวเฮา
Brothers, sisters, comrades, and fellow seekers, good morning. I am honored to be able to participate in this forum and address you all. So why is fairness such an important element in the world of organic? I believe that food is the essence of life, and the farmers, the cattle, the microbes in the soil, the birds, in fact, the entire living ecosystem and all of nature are the providers of food. It is the direct and indirect interconnections between these elements of the cosmos that provide us food, good food, safe food. So if this has to happen and keep happening for all time to come, then it is natural, only natural, that there should be equity, respect, and justice for and among all living beings in this ecology. That, in my opinion, is the meaning of the principle of fairness in the organic worldview. The primary actor in this whole cosmic dance is the farmer. And by the farmer, I mean the smallholder farmer, the peasants. We also know that agriculture is responsible for 80% of the deforestation worldwide. However, this is not caused by the farmer I'm talking about. This is caused by the large industrial forms of agriculture that have no respect for life on earth, no space for equity or justice for any living being who inhabit this beautiful world of ours. In this reality, the small farmers, on the other hand, who grow most of our real food and bear all the risks, are slowly and steadily being erased from the story of agriculture. They who believe that the soil is their mother are becoming redundant in this paradigm of economics where growth is not only indispensable but also infinite. Traditional agriculture has always practiced equity and justice for all living beings, where trust in life is an integral part of the farmer's worldview. Yet, the peasant in India today and possibly the world over is the lowest paid worker. When they remain organic or turn organic, they actually honor us. They honor the earth. They honor the cosmos. They honor the denizens of this world. It becomes imperative then that the rest of the non-producers of food respect these farmers by not taking away their right to a good life, that they are compensated for all the risks they take to provide clean and safe food while trying to maintain the ecological balance of a world increasingly being affected by climate change. That the earth is respected and compensated for all that we take from her. That the animals are respected and compensated for their services to the ecosystems. The principle of fairness is all about building strong, cordial, cooperative, honest, and respectful relationships. It's all about human dignity, solidarity, and social justice for all. Wherever I go, be it in India or abroad, people are wanting good food. Yet not everybody wants to pay premium that organic demands. And this is where the ideal of common goods economy comes in. The consumer should understand that their local farmers also want to live a good life. The farmers must understand that they are producers and providers of food that local consumers depend on, and so should produce good food. We all need to trust and respect each other, and then the rest will follow.
I ended up in a field in North Dakota that actually belonged to a fellow by the name of Gabe Brown. And this was early April 2014, and it was a field that he had planted the previous autumn to a multi-species cover crop that he actually fed to his cattle. That was a real moment for me. All of a sudden, it meant that I needed to keep my soil covered. So I came home and changed my thought process and tried to adapt what I'd seen in Gabe's field to my own. When we get a heavy rainfall event, once upon a time I would see soil literally like chocolate brown water running from my field, whereas now that water's clean. So that was the first benefit. The second benefit is a reduction in the necessity for synthetic forms of fertiliser. So I've been able to significantly reduce the amount of nitrogen in particular and phosphorus that I've been applying to my fields. When you plant a multi-species cover crop, how do you harvest it? Well, guess what? They harvest it for me and they turn it into beef. So there is my production. Most of us know how good worms are at helping to improve soil function. Well, dung beetles are even better because they actually dig big burrows in your soil and they take that dung down inside the soil, but then you've got all this other good stuff like your water and your air infiltration that follows those dung beetles down into the soil. So it's another way that I can address those key underlying issues that I started with. You change your intent from having a bare, dead fallow to a covered, living fallow.
Now what we are growing here, we are growing bananas and we are producing them organically. One can see how these bananas looks like, but in order to produce such nice looking banana bunches, it requires one to utilize organic manure. And for me, I just utilize the poultry manure. Poultry manure promotes the better soils, and also whenever there is, you see how the soil looks like. The soil is like dark color, which is a mixture of the sandy soil and organic manure. This plant has a capacity to stay here more than 10 years, promoting or producing the bananas for home consumption and also for sale. In this country, this is a food security, because if you plant a banana, it stands to give you more than 10 to 15 bunches, but every year it can produce 3 to 4 bunches, of which in the Ugandan currency, this one can sell like 20 to 30,000 per bunch. That is an income. And the challenge for this country in the rural settings is for the people to be able to earn an income on a daily, on weekly, and a monthly basis. By growing bananas and the coffee, as you can see around here, it is possible for the farmer to earn an income on daily, on weekly, and a monthly basis.
The principle of care. I find the principle of care is a backbone, is the one that really unites all principles. You can't think about ecology without care. You can't think about health without care. You can't think about health without care. Care is all around and is what makes the change. Is what brings change. When I care about you, when I care about my own health, I care about your health, the health of soils, the health of the planet. That brings the energy and effort that will push change. We are facing a very unique moment in time. We are facing a pandemic, something my generation, at least, early 30s, so for me is quite new. A pandemic that has no borders, no money borders, no physical borders, no anything. The only thing we have to face it is to care about each other, to try to protect each other. We are currently in lockdown in my country because we are protecting each other. It's not about me, it's about me not infecting others. And that care that I stay at home because I want to protect others is a spirit that should bring us and that we should implement in our daily life. And this is only one problem we face in a much bigger problem we are really facing, that is climate crisis. What future we will leave to our next generation, to my generation. Actually, I might not even see it. But the ones coming after me, they will suffer it. So it's the time now to care, to really care of the steps we take, of the decisions we make, and how we design the future we want to see, the reality we want to build. We have an opportunity with this pandemic to really get out of business as usual and really start a new paradigm, to really start a new reality. But it's up to us, and it's about how much we care about that future, about those others, those worms, those birds, those animals, that earth, those tomatoes, your family, your community, all those that are around you. That's why I believe the principle of care is really a backbone of all principles. That's why we need to care. We need to care about our present, about our future, about all that is around us.
Warm greetings from Fiji. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. The Pacific's a unique region, thousands of small islands in the world's largest ocean, with many commonalities, but also rich diversity culturally, geographically, and historically. Our biggest concerns, though, are of course global in nature: climate change, loss of biodiversity, and the impact of our food systems on our health. But principles-based organic agriculture can provide a solution to these challenges and help contribute to our sustainable development. But I stress the principles-based part of that statement. We could possibly convert all of global agricultural production to organic based on a set of rules that limits the use of dangerous chemicals and practices, but ultimately that doesn't change our food production systems in the way that we need if we're to contribute to those big global challenges. We could easily just have an agricultural industrial complex that replaces toxic inputs with organic ones. But all the other vitally important things about the way we produce our food and work with our ecosystems, protect our health and culture, wouldn't necessarily be benefiting. As you've heard from previous presentations, the principles apply to agriculture in the broadest sense. It's about the way people interact with landscapes. It's about the way we relate to each other and how we shape the legacy for future generations. The principles express the contribution that organic agriculture can make to the world, and a vision to improve all agriculture. Agriculture doesn't only feed us. Our history, our culture, our community values are all embedded in agriculture. I'd like to reflect a little bit on what some of those global challenges look like in the Pacific, and sea level rise is the most obvious example. Some of our islands, like Tuvalu, are only a metre or two above sea level at their highest points, and some predictions put them entirely underwater in the not too distant future. Here in Fiji, we have earmarked 60 villages that need to be relocated inland. And it's not just about the complexity of new infrastructure or the cost, it's about the dislocation of communities and entire cultures, the loss of sense of place and self and identity. And we've had this experience before in the Pacific. We've had entire island communities displaced when their islands became unlivable due to phosphate mining for fertilizer. The Banamad community of Kiribati is an example. They now currently all are relocated in Fiji. And I'm sure the farmers that used that phosphate had no idea that their farming practices would have that sort of impact across the other side of the globe. Other impacts of climate are, of course, drought. We're having extended dry spells. In the last 5 years, several countries have had to ship in drinking water and desalination plants just to survive these unusually long droughts. Tropical cyclones are likely to become stronger and more frequent. And right now, I'm actually keeping my fingers crossed that we get this recording done before the next really noisy downpour associated with a cyclone that devastated Vanuatu 2 days ago with winds of up to 235 kilometers an hour. Loss of biodiversity is also really significant. Commercialization of taro farming in Samoa, for example, moved farmers from a diverse traditional agroforestry system with many varieties of taro and other species to large monocrop plantations of taro just with one variety. A blight came in and wiped out the entire industry in 3 months, took millions of dollars out of the economy, and the staple food was gone, leading to major changes in dietary habits. Maybe if we'd maintained those diverse varieties, some of which had resistance to the blight, and kept more diversity in our farms, we would have been able to lessen the impact of that pest infestation when it came through. That leads me to my last point, the impact of our food systems on health. Globalization has really changed how we eat in the Pacific. We now eat the big three: corn, wheat, and rice, which were never part of our diets. And of course, we eat a lot more processed food, high in sugar and high in salt. Why? Because they're cheap. They're mass-produced and supported by subsidies, and the true cost of production, like environmental impact, isn't considered. So they get to our shelves at a really low price point. We're not nations with a lot of cash in our pockets, and price point is a really powerful driver for consumers. We now have the highest rates of non-communicable diseases like diabetes in the world, and growing rates of micronutrient deficiencies. In the Marshall Islands, 1 in 3 children under 5 has stunted growth. And here in Fiji, someone has an amputation every 11 hours due to complications from diabetes. And we only have a population of 900,000 people. The good news, it's not all bad. All of those challenges can be overcome through building a food system based on the principles of organic agriculture. This requires a mind change, a mindset change, and a vision that can only happen when we truly recognise how interconnected and interdependent we all are. Agriculture-wise, we're connected through the globalisation of the food system, but our cultures and our homes, food connects us to others. It nourishes us. So we must build food systems that support that nourishment of our bodies, nourishment of our communities, and nourishment of our planet. These are really important discussions, and I'd like to thank you again for enabling me to be part of this, and I wish you well for the rest of the conference.